In this video, we are going to be talking about tarot cards. There is a lot of controversy when it comes to using tarot cards and, are they even actually spiritual? Are they a part of the occult? Are they good? Are they bad? Do they just allow demons to come into your life? So that's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. If you need personalized coaching or an energy healing from yours truly, then you can go to my website at catherineglassman.com, or you can email me at hello@catherineglassman.com. So first of all, let's go over a little bit of the history about tarot cards. Now, please forgive me. I am not a historian. I just kind of did like a quick Google search. And what I found is that the original tarot deck originated from the 1400s from Italy, but it was actually based off of a card game from Egypt. The card game name was Mamluk, I think. So stemming from Egypt and then going to Italy, eventually working its way into Europe into the 1700s. And at this time, it was still a card game, but then it turned into a game that you can also use as a tool of divination. But it wasn't until the late 1700s that a man by the name of Jean-Baptiste Alliot created the first tarot deck that was strictly used for cartomancy or divination through the use of cards. Now, a standard deck of tarot cards has 78 total, with 22 major arcana cards and 56 minor arcana cards. So the major arcana cards represent major life themes, whereas the minor arcana cards represent daily situations. There are a number of different spreads that you can use, like the Celtic Cross or the Horseshoe. There are a lot out there, and all of which will be used for different purposes. And then, of course, the way that the cards lay will also determine the way that you interpret the card. So typically when a card is upright, then it will be interpreted as the basic theme of that card, and it will usually be associated with like a more positive outcome. Whereas if it's upside down, it will typically represent the more challenging aspect of that interpretation. I have heard of some tarot readers out there that refuse to read reversals or read cards that are upside down because they find that it's just more of a negative interpretation. Now, the following information was channeled through meditation, so if it resonates, then great, and if not, that's fine too. But I wanted to ask if tarot cards were bad or if they were evil, because there are a lot of religious people, anyway, that believe that tarot cards are evil because they just allow you to invite, evil or demonic entities into your life. And then that's kind of how you start off with like a haunting and then eventually a demonic possession. I recently just saw a clip of a famous Catholic priest who is also an exorcist. And he said, Ouija boards, tarot cards, anything that has anything to do with the occult can basically invite a demon in. And so I was just a little curious. And so I asked if that was true. And the answer that I got was, it can be. So what I got is that tarot cards themselves are strictly a tool for divination. Okay. Divination is the practice of gaining information from the all-knowing source. So it's not necessarily that the cards are bad. It is all about the intention of the user or the practitioner. When you use a tool of divination, you have to set a crystal clear intention of where you are expecting this information to come from. If you say something generic like, "Oh, spirits, please tell me what my past, present, and future look like," then spirit is a very generalized term. And so just by saying that, you're not making it very clear of what kind of spirit you want information to come from. And so that definitely can allow darker energies to come in and influence the cards. Even if you just pick up a tarot deck innocently and just decide that you want to start playing with them, and in your head, you're just asking questions and you are getting answers that seem to be kind of true, you still could be getting these answers from energies that don't exactly have the best intentions for you. I have shared this story before on this channel, but I had a friend who was kind of going through a spiritual awakening around the same time that I was. I, had started on my journey maybe like a couple of years before her, but whatever, it doesn't, what is time, right? So it doesn't matter. But she really got into tarot cards and she felt like she was really good at it. And that was something that she wanted to do as a career. And so she decided to, make a website and put herself out there on social media and she started getting clients. But, I was a little concerned about her just in herself and then also her doing that so quickly because I just, okay, so with me at that time, there was no way I was going to consider doing anything like that for anybody else when it came to my spiritual gifts because I was still trying to understand them. I mean, I was still questioning my own sanity. I didn't know if I was becoming schizophrenic. I didn't know if what I was getting was actually good information, bad information. I was still learning. And so there was just no way that I was going to consider doing anything like that. And so it was a little alarming to me that she was just so quick to put herself out there and to start, asking people for money for her, reading their tarot cards. And so, whatever, but everyone has, free will and can do whatever they want. And so, it is what it is. I left it alone. And, one day she asked if she could practice on me, and I was like, sure. So I allowed her to read my cards, and I noticed that there was actually a lot of projection, unfortunately. The reading didn't feel very authentic. It very much felt like she was projecting her own issues into my reading. So, for example, she was kind of going through an issue with a guy and found out that he was cheating on her. Okay. So then when she read my cards, she basically alluded to that my partner at the time was cheating on me. I knew that that wasn't right. And I knew that she was projecting. And so I got a little concerned. Okay. So now I'm starting to really question like her intentions as a tarot reader at this point. Okay. But, at the time I kind of felt bad because she was just going through a lot. And, I didn't necessarily want to put her down or anything, but I was starting to wonder if this was a friendship that I should keep. But I was also battling that because when you go through something like that, it's very difficult to find people to talk to about those things. So I definitely had my own ego and my own codependency and lack of boundaries that I was battling by having this particular friendship. And that's a whole journey and karmic thing that has, yeah. Anyway, we're talking about tarot cards. And so she also made comments here and there about her not knowing if she really believed in God or she kind of had some, negative things to say, like about Jesus or the whole concept of Jesus. And so this is just kind of the energy that she is in, okay, as a tarot reader. And so around this time, her life is just falling apart. She she took it upon herself to estrange herself from her entire family. Now, her parents, they actually like paid for the lease for an apartment for her to live in because she also had kids, and they paid for the entire year. And she left after 2 months because she just didn't want to take their money. She became estranged from them, and then she decided to buy a bus and live in the bus. And then the bus caught on fire and burnt down. Right? She, had a partner that was cheating on her. There was just so many problems. And it was after the fire that I started to question if maybe there was something darker around her. And so, I was questioning, but I didn't actually sit down to really look at it because I don't know if I was just a little scared. I was scared to lose a friend. I mean, I think that's kind of where I was with that. And, because her house basically burned down now, she needed a place to stay. And so she asked if she could stay with me for a weekend because that's all she needed. And then she was going to be somewhere else. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So she stays with me for the weekend. And that was when I officially knew that there was definitely something darker around her. She was just very unstable. Even, my partner at the time who I lived with also felt very uncomfortable with her being in the house. She started to tell me that she was picking up on my ancestors that lived in the house. And it was just it was very ungrounded. And so I let her stay. And then after that, I cleansed my home and really tried to channel some information about her because that was basically the final straw for me personally. And that's when I learned that, yeah, there are there are darker energies around her. And then she later on asked if she could stay like another week, and I said no, that I wasn't really comfortable, and because of that, we she got very upset and we had like a falling out basically. And so, it is what it is. It was definitely something that needed to happen. And, I still cared about her as a person because I didn't want her to go down like, a bad path. But yeah, as far as I know, currently she is still giving tarot readings. And so when you hear of a story like this, or you hear of a tarot reader like this is where tarot cards can get a bad rap because you could easily blame the tarot cards if you wanted to, but it wasn't the tarot cards, it was her. I couldn't tell you if she actually set a really good intention when she decided to take on that practice and to also involve other people in other people's lives. Now, I am not an advocate for using tarot cards or not using tarot cards. I'm neither for nor against. However, if you are going to use the tarot cards, then there is one rule that you need to follow. And that rule is that if you're going to use the tarot cards, that the information that comes through the tarot cards will only come from the one source of all creation, which is God. We have to remember that everything is all one thing, and that everything that we see within this illusionary reality is just a fragment of that one thing. This reality that we are perceiving at this very moment is an illusion. It's a simulation. It's a simulation that we are living out, and it is actively being created by our own consciousness, which is part of the one thing. The one thing that is of all consciousness and is of all knowing, that is of everything and nothing simultaneously, is God. And if everything is God, then that means that God is an unconditionally loving energy because it understands that there is nothing that is separate of it. Everything is it, and there is nothing that isn't it. However, there are fragments of this one thing that want to be its own thing. They don't want to be part of the one, the whole. They want to be separated from the one. So they want to create the illusion that they are not part of God. So when you set the intention of gaining access to information that is of God and of God only, it makes it impossible for anything that is masquerading as something that is separated from God to give you information through the cards. The only way that you can get information from energies that are intentionally trying to separate themselves from God is when you set the intention that that's what you want, or you don't set an intention at all. Usually, these separating energies are very self-serving. That is the whole point of them not being a part of the whole. It is because they want to be their own thing. They want to gain whatever it is that they want because they want everything for themselves. And so, if you don't set an intention when you're using a tool of divination, you very well could unintentionally invite those particular energies in to start influencing the cards. Now, a lot of them can be very sneaky and tricky, and they can give you very accurate information, but they also can give you accurate information just long enough for you to trust them and to really allow them to come into your life and into your practice. And the more you work with those particular energies, the stronger that connection becomes. And then eventually, if you start reading for other people, then you are also channeling that particular energy to the receiver. This was part of the reason why it was so alarming for her to want to start giving tarot readings so quickly after learning how to use tarot cards. It would just, even within that energy, it was pretty clear that that was a self-serving practice because she just really wanted to make money, but also to kind of show off her abilities. But it didn't feel like there was any intention of truly helping other people through that spiritual gift and through that tool. So when it comes to the world of energy, what you say, what your intentions are, what you think actively creates the illusionary simulation that we live in now. So if I set the intention for this YouTube video or my YouTube channel to only share information that is of the highest good, of the highest truth, and only coming from the source of all creation, God, then it is so, because that is the intention that I set. And so in the world of energy, it's done. Because energy, intention, words, it will have a rippling effect into the simulation, which means that by me talking about this and making this video, and then you watching it, you are receiving that energy. And now there is potential for you to do something with that particular information or energy. Maybe you are going to buy a deck of tarot cards, or maybe you won't, or have, whatever it will, but it will create a rippling effect into this reality. This can also be said with tarot cards, which is why I wanted to talk about it. You may decide to play around with tarot cards or even give someone a reading, but you are creating a rippling effect into reality. And by asking for information, you are also receiving some of those rippling effects as well. And so you have to set the intention of where it's coming from and where you want it to go and why you want to do it. I remembered when I did ayahuasca, the ayahuasca shaman, who I just love dearly, she said that the world does not suffer from attention deficit disorder, but rather intention deficit disorder. And it's so true. The, elites and, the governmenting bodies of, humanity right now, they know how powerful we really are. And this is why they try to suppress a lot of information because they don't want us to understand that. They don't want us to understand how powerful our words are, how we can give each other energy, that we are telepathic, that we are psychic, that we can speak to aliens, that we ourselves are aliens. They don't want us to know anything like that. And they certainly don't want us to really know the power that tarot cards can actually have, or just divination tools in general. They don't want us to know how to properly use these tools. Instead, it's just easier to say that they're evil. And even by saying that they're evil, you kind of put a darker energy on it just by even saying that. So, if you are going to use tarot cards, then this is what I recommend. I want you to take the deck, right? Fresh out of the package or whatever. I would not recommend receiving one as a gift because you just need to be careful. You know, you can put energy into objects and then you can gift them to other people. Sometimes that energy is good, sometimes it's bad. So just be mindful. If you're going to do it, I would say just get a fresh pack so that you can put your own energy into it. And then I recommend going outside and sitting out in the sun, maybe sitting by a tree. And I would recommend meditating for a few minutes, or you can think of a really pleasant and happy, joyous memory. The goal is to get yourself into a higher vibration. Thinking about a time where you were just elated and laughing and just, hugging on someone because you just love them so much and just having so much fun and just really enjoying life. So we already want to just set the stage for when we actually infuse energy into the tarot cards. And so once you've gotten yourself into a high vibing state, then I want you to just take the cards and just hold them. And what you can do is imagine white light coming from the sky and pouring into the top of your head and coming out of your hands and into the tarot cards. Okay, this light is the light from God. And I want you to imagine that God is blessing these cards, making it so that these cards will only give you the highest truth coming from the source of unconditional love. And that whoever receives any information from the cards will only receive information from God, from the highest truth, and it will only give that information to you or to whoever you decide to read for, because that is the rippling effect that we want to create using the cards. We are not going to leave any room for any negative energy, for anger, anxiety, depression, sadness. We are not going to get any of that energy when we look at the cards, when we read the cards, or when we read for other people. We are going to get love, compassion, joy, empowerment, motivation, inspiration, things that are going to push us forward in a positive way. We want any information that comes through these cards to assist us in living out our highest timeline. And of course, you want to say thank you to the source of all creation. And of course, you can say thank you to the sun and the trees, to the cards themselves, to yourself, to your highest self, because in the world of energy, now it is so. And then, of course, if you want to test the cards, give yourself a reading or whatever, the information that you get should be of a high vibration. You should always feel good when you get any information from the cards. You should feel uplifted. You should feel like you've got useful information that is going to propel you forward. If you get a feeling or information that leaves you anxious or sad or unsure, or if you feel like you need to keep giving yourself readings because you're just not sure of the answer, those are not the vibes that we want. And I do want to mention that there is a potential for people to get obsessed with tarot cards. And, especially if you are someone who is vulnerable, there are people out there that are in um, a situation that they are having a difficult time getting through, and they just rely on psychics and mediums and tarot card readers and things like that. And they just keep spending their money over and over again. And, you that might not necessarily be coming from, an ill intention or a lack of intention from the reader necessarily, but you want to be mindful of that particular energy because you don't want to feed into that. If you do decide to read tarot cards for somebody and you are picking up on that there is this obsession over it, then you need to remember what your intention is with doing that kind of work. The intention should not be to enable that energy, but rather giving the power back to the person and knowing that they are capable of moving through their life themselves, that the cards are strictly meant to be used as a tool to assist you and to give you a little bit of information, but ultimately, we are the ones that have to take action. It's funny because when I was channeling this information, I actually started to get a little emotional because I actually believe now, just from the energy that I was getting, that if enough people were to actually do this and infuse these cards with just the highest of love and energy and vibration, then there is a total potential for these tools of divination to become holy. But we're not even close to that because we're just not intentional enough. We don't mean it enough to be of the highest good. And then, of course, there are practitioners out there that don't want it to be of the highest good. They want it to be used as a way of making money off of vulnerable people. And that brings me to my next point. If you do not want to get the tarot cards, but you want to get a reading from somebody, then, be very discerning and intentional about the energy and the information that you want to get, right? So I said that we want the information to come from the source of all creation, from the unconditional one. And so you just want to make sure that you put that out there, that if you're going to find a reader, that you find a reader that is coming from that particular energy. And so when I was getting the visual of like every single person who ever touched a tarot card deck, if every single one of them infused it with the energy of God, or at least set the intention of it being a very holy object. I mean, I got that there is full potential for it to be as holy as something like the Bible. But again, it's just not that way right now. Um, and it is what it is. Of course, there are a lot of holy objects out there, but, we know for sure that the Bible itself is just holy. And it's funny because I actually have been seeing reels on my feed from people from the, LA fires going through their homes and everything is burnt to a crisp, but somehow people's Bibles aren't being burned. I've seen like 3 reels now. One of them was like a copy of 2 children's Bibles. Like they just were not burned. And so, how cool would it be if we could actually make it so that other objects are just that holy? I don't know. I think we totally could do it. At the end of the day, it is just a tool for you to gain guidance if you need it, but make sure that that guidance is coming from a very particular place and not from anywhere else. Will you actually need the tarot cards? No, because ultimately, you are not separate from the source. You have God residing within yourself. You have all the answers. I think the only thing that you need is just the belief and the faith. But if you're going to use the cards, then please use them wisely. But I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.